So if you're working in another industry and very similar to this client, what I'm going to explain to you in the next few minutes, this will also apply to you. You can use it as a guide. But when you're on such a high income, you should consider building wealth because you're in a very good position and compared to other people out there, right? You know, the average salary around Australia is around $90,000 to $100,000. So in the space of 2 years, he was able to accumulate another 2 investment properties and 1 property within his SMSF. Good day everyone, I hope you're well and thanks for joining me on another episode of The Mortgage Chat. I'm your host Tony Xia and today I want to give you a real life example of the high income earners, especially minor and FIFO workers. But this is not just for minors and FIFO workers. So if you're working in another industry and very similar to this client, what I'm going to explain to you in the next few minutes, this will also apply to you. You can use it as a guide. Now, why have I used this minor or minors and FIFO workers as an example? Well, we've been picking up a lot of FIFO and mine workers lately. And you get a lot of people that are on high income earners, you know, anywhere between $140,000 all the way up to $210,000. And what we've seen is half of them actually wants to build wealth. However, the other half enjoys the luxuries too much, such as buying cars, buying boats, buying bikes, spending on holidays, etc., and still renting. Not saying that's a bad thing, but when you're on such a high income, you should consider building wealth because you're in a very good position and compared to other people out there, right? You know, the average salary around Australia is around $90,000 to $100,000. And if you're on $140,000, $160,000, $180,000, $200,000, you can actually go a very long way and still live a life. And this is why I want to give you a good example of this particular client that we picked up about 2 years ago. So this client came to me in 2022. He worked for one of the mines in WA. He was a high income earner, you know, on around $165,000 at the time. He was married with 2 kids. He had a property worth around $490,000 at the time and had around a $230,000 loan on it, right? But the thing was, he didn't do enough of his money, right? So he was living very comfortably on $165,000 because his loan was only $230,000. So at the end of every month or every pay cycle, he had a lot of net disposable income left over. And at the same time, he's paying a lot of taxes, right? So really, he was just saving that money for no particular reason why he would have used that money to invest in other assets that will give him a lot more better returns, right? So this is where he came in and he asked for help. And I want to show you what we've done for him the last 2 years, showing you where he started, what he's purchased and where he's now. So you guys can make a comparison, use it as a guide or indication to see what you can actually do with yourself now or plan for the next couple of years. Okay, so the first thing what we've done was work out his borrowing power because I already know equity wasn't so much of an issue for him because his property was worth around $490,000, his loan was around $230,000, so his usable equity was around $160,000 without going above 80% of the value of the property. Now, he wanted to invest in the area that he lived in because he just understood it, he knows about it. He had no time to invest in other states, so he was happy to invest around where he was living at. And that's where it all started. So the first thing was we ended up buying something for around $480,000, a few suburbs away from where he lived. Because we had equity in his property, we were able to borrow 100% of the purchase price plus cost. So the purchase price was around $480,000. Borrowing power, like I said, was never an issue for him because he was on such a high income. Now I'll show you the breakdown on how he used equity and how we structured the loan. So guys, I've got a whiteboard in front of me, right? So just go to YouTube if you want to look at it, but it's pretty much self-explanatory through this podcast anyway. Okay, so like I said to you, his primary place of residence was around $490,000, okay? His loan was $230,000. He had around $160,000 of usable equity. Now, to buy something for $480,000, you need your 20% deposit, which is $96,000. Give or take, stamp duty plus solicitor cost was around $25,000, okay? So you need a total of $121,000. Now, what we've done here was we kept the original loan as is, as $230,000. We drew an equity loan of $121,000, which was the 20% deposit plus stamp duty. We've done this as loan number 2. So these 2 loans were secured against the primary place of residence. Now, for the investment, we just got an 80% loan of the value of $480,000, which was $384,000, okay? So essentially what we've done here was we borrowed 100% of the purchase price plus cost. And both of these loans are tax deductible, okay? And based on borrowing 100% plus cost, after taking account of rental income and all expenses for the investment property, he was short for around $600 out of his own pocket per month, which he was able to sustain because his disposable income was so high. He was able to fork out an extra $600 out of his own pocket per month to sustain this debt, borrowing 105%. Okay, so about 9 months later, he got the itch again. He wanted to invest in another property, right? So, but this time he goes, look, I want to chase the yield rather than the growth. He ended up buying something in the same area again for around $380,000. And stamp duty and cost at the time was around $15,000. So the total loan needed was around $395,000 if he wanted to borrow 100% of the purchase price plus cost. Now, the good thing was the property went up again. During that time, there was another boom in that location and the property prices went up again in 9 months, right? So his PPOR, his primary place of residence, went up from around $490,000 to around $610,000, while the investment property he purchased went up to about $570,000. So just with his existing 2 properties, his value was around 1.18 with a debt of around $735,000. And you take those away, his net asset position was around $445,000. So I already know, again, equity is not an issue there. He can borrow 100% of the purchase price plus cost. And lucky enough, because the rental yield was so high and also he still had a lot of disposable income left over, borrowing power was also not an issue for him. So like I said, he ended up buying something for around $380,000 plus stamp duty for $15,000. So his total cost base was around $395,000. The rental income we end up getting for that property was $500 per week. Therefore, the cash outlay at every month after all the expenses and taking into account of rent, his net cash outlay after taking expenses, deductions, and rental income, his cash outlays was around $300 to $350 per month, which was still affordable to him. So after 2 years and after 2 investment properties, he was happy to stop for now because, like I said to you, he still liked his toys, he still liked to live a life, he wanted to buy a boat, he still loved his bike. So we just kept it like that for now because that debt level that he's taken on was enough for him to still have a happy life and still have disposable income left over for savings on the back end for a rainy day, etc. Right? So like we said to you, we always try to get you a debt level where it's sustainable for you and you can still live a good life. Okay, not where we want to push your debt level all the way up to the brink and you can't live a good life. So really, in the space of 2 years, his debt level was only $230,000 and his value of the property was only $490,000. After 2 years, after accumulating another 2 properties, his asset value has now shot up to $1.86 million and his debt level is around $1.1 million. Now, during that 2 years, he's paid down his debts a little bit by around $20,000. So that's why, the numbers are a little bit lower than what it was before, which gave us a net asset value of around $600,000 in just 2 years. Now, let's take away the primary place of residence as an asset within the calculations, okay? If I take away that property and just calculate the 2 investment properties we purchased 2 years ago and the value of those properties went up, the value actually went up by $165,000 over the 2-year period, which is not bad over 2 years, right? $165,000 wealth created in 2 years because 2 of your properties grew in value to keep growing, right? And how did we come up with these values on these properties? Well, in the beginning of 2025, we've actually done valuations on all 3 properties where his primary place of residence went up to $660,000. The first investment he bought went up to $615,000. And the third investment he bought for $380,000 actually shot up to $415,000. And these were all bank valuations. None of these core logic, guesstimation valuations. These were actually bank valuations that the bank will lend off. But we didn't stop investing there, right? He still had the itch of, wanting to keep on investing, but he didn't want to take on any more debt in his personal name because that affected his lifestyle too much, caused too much cash outlay. But instead, he had a big super balance. So now he goes, okay, well, Tony, I know if I invest in a property, I'll get a lot more return on that property than the stocks my super fund invest in. He spoke to his accountant, he spoke to his financial planner, and they've decided that buying a property under SMSF actually done well for him because he was on a higher tax bracket and he was still paying a little bit too much tax, so he can divert some of that money into his super to reduce his taxable income. As always, you should talk to your accountant and financial planner about this strategy. Okay, so his super balance was around $200,000 at the time. And a lot of people out there still have this misconception that, hey, do you know what? You need 30-40% deposit. You need a way bigger balance than that. And that's actually quite wrong. We've done SMSF loans where the balance of the super was only $150,000. In this scenario, this client, because he was on such a high income and his super contribution was quite high, he was able to purchase a property for $650,000. Okay, then let me break it down for you. You need 20% deposit, which is $130,000. You need stamp duty plus cost, which was around $27,000. You need solicitor costs. You need setup costs, which is around $5,000 for the SMSF. So the total needed to buy something for $650,000 in your SMSF was only $162,000, $165,000 odd, which his super balance of $200,000 was more than enough to cover that. So now guess what? He's actually got a property in his SMSF now. So in the space of 2 years, he was able to accumulate another 2 investment properties and 1 property within his SMSF. So guys, this was just a quick, brief case study of what one of my clients have done. If you're in a very similar situation, very similar scenario, similar income, regardless if you're in the same industry or not, you can potentially do the same thing as what my client has just done in the last 2 years. All you need is just to have that little bit of equity in your property to get the ball rolling. If you don't have that equity up front or you're looking to buy your first home now, put a plan in place. Have a few year plan, let that property grow, let the value grow, let the asset grow, let the equity grow, and you can start using that equity, leverage off it, and buy more investment properties. Alrighty guys, I hope you liked this video, hope you enjoyed it. Please give this channel a like, give this video a follow. I hope to see you next time. I'm your host Tony Xia, and thanks for joining me on another episode of The Mortgage Chat. See you in the next episode.